Hey guys, it is time for my April reviews, and I actually have books to review this month. It is so exciting. So let's get into those because I have 6-ish books to review in one video, so sorry if this is a little long, but let's get to it. So the first thing I read this month was Lady Thief by A.C. Gowan, which is the sequel to Scarlet by A.C. Gowan. And I do have a review for Scarlet, which I will leave down below, and you guys can go check that out if you think this series sounds interesting to you, but it is basically a Robin Hood retelling where Will Scarlet is actually a girl. There's a bit of romance between her and Robin Hood, and I can't really give an in-depth summary of this book since it's a sequel and I don't want to spoil anyone. I was going to do a video review, but I wasn't sure anyone would watch that, so if you want a review of Lady Thief by A.C. Gowan, please let me know in the comments. Basically, this book was so disappointing. This is probably the most disappointing sequel I've ever read in my entire life. It's been a little more than a year since I read Scarlet, and I kind of forgot how poorly Robin Hood treats Scarlet. In this book, it becomes physical. He has post-traumatic stress disorder. He hurts Scarlet without realizing it, without meaning to. Basically, all the men in Scarlet's life just treat her terribly. You know the story of Robin Hood. There's the big competition for sheriff, and I thought for sure that in this retelling it would have Scarlet pretending to be a man or someone and doing the archery contest, but nope, she was sitting from the stands and like fainting. And I know this is a historical novel where women used to faint, but this is Scarlet. Like in the first book, she was so great. She was like jumping through trees, and now she's not. But I must have gotten into it because I did end up finishing the book. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Like, I do care about these characters. I care so much about Scarlet, and that's probably why I didn't like this book, because I cared about her so much, and she was just gone through hell, and she just puts up with it, and And now for something completely different, I then read Lola and the Boy Next Door by Stephanie Perkins. This is Kira from the future. I am editing the video you are currently watching, and I just have to say that I said way too much about Lola and the Boy Next Door, so I took all that footage and put it into its own review video. You can go watch that by clicking on the screen. Please go watch it. I had a lot of things to say, apparently. Just know that I really liked that book. I gave it 4.5-ish stars, kind of 5 stars. Go watch the video and you'll see what I'm talking about. Next up, I read 2 graphic novel type books, and the first one is Hark, a Vagrant by Kate Beaton. Now, you guys know Kate Beaton. Even if you think you don't, you do. You have seen her comics around Tumblr, around the internet in general. They are everywhere. Now, all of these comics in this book are up for free on her website, but there's just something about holding, like, these comics that you've seen everywhere online in your hands, having the Old as Balls comic on a page. There's just something about it. Now, the great thing about this collection of comics is that it is mainly literary jokes and historical jokes, and I am all about those. She makes fun of like Les Mis and Dracula and Nancy Drew and Jane Austen. There are so many Jane Austen comics, and the Bronte sisters. I learned so much about the Bronte sisters by reading this book. But then on the flip side, Kate is also Canadian, and there's a lot of Canadian history, and I don't know Canadian history. I was never that good at history, although I really like it, and so some of the stuff I didn't really get. Anyway, I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. I also read Hyperbole and a Half by Allie Brosh. You know Allie Brosh too, I guarantee it. She is also all around the internet. She's the one who did the clean all the things. I like her blog, I like her humor, I liked everything she wrote about her dogs. Now, I read these graphic novel type books very close together, and so I compared them, and I like Hark, a Vagrant much more. Hyperbole and a Half was much more deep. I think that's really cool in concept, that you have the horrible drawings in MS Paint and then have like really deep, meaningful words about her experiences with depression. It just, you know, rubbed me the wrong way personally, but that doesn't mean it's bad. I think it was really well done. It was just less enjoyable for me because I had to face my depression compared to her depression. So I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. And then I read The Unidentified by Ray Mraz. This book showed me that even if the summaries are good, I really should not buy books in the bargain section of Amazon if I have never heard about them and all the reviews are terrible. I was like, oh no, how could a book with this concept be bad? It's impossible to mess up a book that sounds this cool. It's possible. It's very, very possible. It's about this girl named Kid who lives in a future where government funding for education has run out. So to fix this, children now go to the game, which is supposed to be like a corporate sponsored school. But instead it's more like just a place for brands to go to find spokespeople for their product. It's kind of more about advertising than it is about learning, except that the kids do learn, but they learn about what they want to learn about. There is a workshop to do fashion, clothing design. There is a place for robot battles, and they get points for certain things, and then you level up like grades until finally you win the game by graduating. I loved the world building and the entire concept. That was pretty much the only decent thing about this entire book. The plot was boring, with Kid trying to figure out who is performing these anti-sponsor protests. And she's trying not to become a spokesperson by being branded, even though this is what her best friend wants and everyone else in the school wants. She just doesn't want to. She didn't give a reason. She doesn't tell us she thinks they're evil or anything. There's no reason for her not wanting to be branded, even though she'll get money and she'll be with the cool kids. She gave no reason. It's supposed to be this scary dystopian world, but I thought the game sounded fun and better than our current education system. I picked up this book because it sounded a lot like Video Game High School, and it kind of was, except that in this book, kids learning what they want to learn is painted in a bad light. Or at least it tries to paint it in a bad light. There was really no reason for anything that happened. Why were there protests? I don't know. It had horrible pacing, with the whole plot dragging until some lackluster conclusion. So, a solid 2 stars, man. So my last book for April was The Enchantress Returns, which is the sequel to The Land of Stories by Chris Colfer. So if you don't know, The Land of Stories is about 2 twins who accidentally fall into a fairy tale world through their grandma's fairy tale book. And they go on all of these adventures with these fairy tale characters, and it's just a really fun series. Now this one gets a little darker, with a lot more political things going on, and with their mom being captured by this evil enchantress. The enchantress is the one who originally cursed Sleeping Beauty. She's like Maleficent. Now the only problem I had with this book was the excessive amount of italics. There are so many italics in this book. Why? Why, Chris? Why are there so many italics? There's italics for when people are just talking with emotion or with anger. But overall, the story was really good. He's so witty. I read some reviews who thought that he was a little bit like, wink wink, nudge nudge, look what I did there, aren't I clever? But he is clever. I really like the way he connected all the stories. Everyone's related to each other, and there's so much like background, just so much weaving these stories effortlessly together. It's pretty genius. I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a comment down below if you want a full review of any of these books. I am totally willing to do so. I hope you guys had a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye! I don't know if I want to be Lola or date Lola. I don't know what's happening right now.